Hey everybody, this is Darren. Let's get back into our Genesis lessons. So this week we are in Genesis 26 and we are looking at promises and problems. So promises and problems in Genesis 26. And so let's get into it, shall we? So Genesis 26, starting in verse 1. Now there was a famine in the land, and besides the former famine that was in the days of Abraham, and Isaac went to Gerar to Abimelech, king of the Philistines. And the Lord appeared to him and said, Do not go down to Egypt, dwell in the land for which I shall tell you, sojourn in the land, and I will be with you and will bless you, for you and your offsprings I will give all this land, and I will establish the oath that I swore to Abraham your father, and I will multiply your offspring as the stars of the heavens, and will give you offsprings all the lands. And in your offsprings, all the nations of the earth shall be blessed, because Abraham obeyed my voice and kept my charge and my commandments and my statutes and my laws. So let's kind of look at these in two different little sections now. So, of course, when there's a famine in the land, the normative would be to go to Egypt. And so why Egypt? Well, because of the Nile River Valley was usually very fertile. There's very few times when the Nile has a famine. It was the breadbasket of the Middle East and during this time. And of course, we will see a famine in that area later on in the book of Genesis when uh, Joseph is ruler in the area. But that's much later. So now God tells him, don't leave. Don't do like your father. Don't go down to Egypt. And some people take this as that Abraham was disobedient for going to Egypt during the famine. That when he went, we really don't. I don't see that in the text. He was just telling him, don't do it. Just stay where you are. I'll take care of you. So I don't necessarily agree with that contention that Abraham uh, was being disobedient when he went down to Egypt. So anyway, tells him not to go. Um, and then God, of course, repeats his promises to Abraham, to Isaac, that he had given to Abraham. So those promises are still in effect, and he's going to keep them. So in verse 6, so Isaac settled in Gerar. And when the men of the place asked him about his wife, he said, She is my sister, for he feared to say, My wife, thinking least the men of the place should kill me because she was attractive in appearance. So Isaac makes the same mistake as his father, not trusting in God's promises for what he said he would do for him. So here we go again, like father, like son, who are more worried about their lives than they are about protecting their wives. So it again, sin causes problems. Um, and so we get into verse 8, and so when he had been there, when he'd been there a long time, so he hung out. He'd been there quite a while. Abimelech, king of the Philistines, looked out a window and saw Isaac laughing with Rebekah, his wife. And so clearly Abimelech looks down, sees Isaac with Rebekah, and they're being way too friendly for brothers and sisters. So kind of like the cat's out of the bag. So Abimelech called Isaac and said, Behold, she is your wife. How, how could you say she is my sister? And Isaac says to him, Because I thought, least I die because of her. Again, short-sighted. Abimelech says, What is this you have done to us? One of the people might have laid with her, your wife, and you would have brought this guilt upon us. So Abimelech saying, "Look, you made us look like fools, and we could have been in big trouble." Abimelech warned all the people, saying, "Whoever touches this man or his wife should surely be put to death." So, um, now the difference between Abraham and Isaac is that Rebekah was never taken from Isaac, unlike Sarah, who was taken twice to be in the court of Pharaoh and then in another court of king. This does not happen. So the king figured it out before it got to that point, and then he warned everyone, "Don't have anything to do with either one of them. Don't don't do it, or we're have you put to death." Verse 12. So Isaac sowed in the land and reaped in the same a year 100-fold, and the Lord blessed him. And the man became rich and gained more and more until he became very wealthy. He had possessed the flocks and herds and many servants, so that the Philistines envied him. And now the Philistines had stopped and filled the earth, all the wells that his father's servant had dug in the days of Abraham, his father. So, of course, Abraham was a nomad, went from place to place, but when he would go from place to place, he dug wells, and those wells prospered, had water. Well, the Philistines went behind after Abraham died, and they filled them back up. Kind of short sighted and stupid, but that's what they did. And to be honest, it was kind of petty. But we're going to get a lot of pettiness from the Philistines. And this is one of the problems. God has given promises to Isaac, but we are having problems with the Philistines. So, and Abimelech said to Isaac, "Go away from us, for you are much mightier than we." So now it's an intimidation. They're intimidated by his wealth, but also the size of what his family has become, because he's gained servants and things like that. And they're like, these people are more loyal to Isaac than the king Abimelech. And he's like, I don't want you around. You need to leave. So Isaac departed from there and encamped in the valley of Geer and settled there. And Isaac dug again the wells of waters that had been dug in the days of Abraham his father, which the Philistines had stopped after the death of Abraham, and he gave them the names that his father had given them. So Isaac goes right back to the same spots and redigs the wells because he knows they're prosperous. But when Isaac's servants dug the well in the valley and found there was water in the spring, so the Philistines ask Isaac to leave. He goes, and then he starts redigging those wells, which is a good thing. And but we will also see that it causes problems. So the herdsmen of Gear quarreled with Isaac's herdsmen, saying, "This water is ours." So Isaac's people do the work, and then the Philistines come in and say, "Oh no, this is actually ours." So he called the name of the well Eskert, because they contended with him. So when people complained, he just left it and said, "Okay, here it is, and we'll leave." Then they dug another well, and they quarreled over that one as well. So he called it Shitnar, Sitnar. Again, so all these wells that Isaac had redug, the Philistines claimed. So why did they cover them up in the first place? It didn't make any sense. But this is what enemies of God do. They're not very smart. They're actually kind of stupid. If you saw the dog go by, that wasn't something strange. Just this, the dog likes to camp behind me while I do these. So 26, 22. Excuse me. He moved from there and dug another well, and they did not quarrel over it. So he finally found a place where the people weren't going to quarrel over. And he called it Rehoboth, saying, "For now the Lord has made room for us, and we shall be fruitful in the land." And then verse 23, from there they went up to Beersheba. So they've dug several wells, they've re-got them started, and now they're in a place where the Philistines won't bother them anymore. Verse 24. And then the Lord appeared to him the same night, and said, I am the God of Abraham, your father. Fear not, for I am with you and will bless you and multiply your offspring for my servant Abraham's sake. God repeats his promises and comes to Isaac personally to tell him this. Repeats those promises he had given to Abraham to Isaac. And this is to not keeping the promises because it was for Abraham. Isaac had done nothing to keep the covenant between Abraham and God. It was a complete work of God, just as is salvation. So I want to make it clear Isaac hasn't done anything of righteousness to keep the covenant that God had promised Abraham. God is telling Isaac that he's keeping the covenant because it was a promise that he made to his father, not because of anything that Isaac had done. And Isaac had become uh, very wealthy and become very blessed by God, but it wasn't for none of those reasons that he's going to keep the covenant. So, verse 25, so he built an altar, that would be Isaac, built an altar there, and it was called upon the name of the Lord. And he pitched tents there, and there Isaac's servants dug a well. So Isaac is prolific at digging wells. It is his thing, as we can clearly see. So when went to him from Gerar with Asherah, and I'm horrible at these names, his advisor and the commander of his army, Isaac said to them, What have you come to me, seeing that you hate me, and you have sent me away? So all of a sudden, these guys show up at Isaac's door, and Isaac's like, Look, I left, I got away from you. Why are you here now? And so, verse 28, they said, we see plainly that the Lord has been with you. So we said, Let us be sworn a pact between us, you and us, and let us make a covenant with you. Verse 29, that you will not harm, you will do us no harm, just as we have not touched you and have done to you nothing but good, that and have sent you away in peace. You are now blessed of the Lord. So they made a feast and they ate and drank. So the Philistines recognized that Isaac had been blessed by the Lord, that he's being protected by God. And so it's better to be on God's good side rather than on God's bad side. So they wanted to make sure that they had a peace with Isaac and to let him know that they were not going to do any shenanigans and please don't mess with them. Pretty good peace deal if you think about it. That was actually one of the few things that the Philistines do right. So, verse 31 in the morning they rose early and exchanged oaths, and Isaac sent them on their way, and they departed from him in peace. That same day, Isaac's servants came and told him about the well that they had dug and said, We have found water. So, another successful well. And he called it Shabbat. Therefore, the name of the city is Beersheba to this day. So, if you know where Beersheba is, it's in the southern part of Israel, very close to the desert. So, to have a well there would be pretty exceptional. So, God continued to bless Isaac with the building of wells. Many of these wells are the same wells that were in the area when in the days of Jesus, especially in areas like Israel, where sources of water were critical for life, and the success of finding water was a given God to was water was given God had given to Isaac. So Isaac's gift was being able to establish these wells because they would come in use later when the children of Israel actually come back into the land. There are established wells in the land giving water. And like I said, these last until the days of Jesus. Uh, verse 34. And so when Esau, this is a bit of a change, but it's closing out the chapter. So when Esau was 40 years old, he took Judith, the daughter of Beeri, the Hittite, to be his wife. and Basemath, the daughter of Elon the Hittite, and they made life bitter for Isaac and Rebekah. So now Esau has decided that he is going to marry Canaanite women, and as we remember, Abraham did not want his son Isaac to marry Canaanite women. He actually had sent a servant to back to his homeland to retrieve a woman, which would be Rebecca. But Esau has chosen for himself to marry someone in Canaan, and unfortunately for Isaac and his Rebecca, this is going to turn out bad. Esau not only took one wife, but he decided to take two. Um, and polygamy never works. The Bible is very clear in every instance where there's more than one man, one wife. It's never a good situation in all cases. So polygamous marriages are not what God called from the beginning, made them man and wife, and the two shall become one flesh. Well, it doesn't say the three shall become one flesh or the four shall become one flesh. So it's one man, one wife. That's what God had made it. So Esau had already made a mistake of the selling of his birthright, and now he has married two women from the same area that his grandfather said not to marry people. So that's unfortunate, but that is it for this week. So that is chapter 26. We are done. And hopefully we will be able to get you back next week a little better time schedule. But God bless y'all. Have a great day. Thanks.